Welcome, everyone. My name is Daniel Mueller, and I am with SolidLeaders and Pro Advisor Coach. And I'm here today to give you a webinar on executive career management. With me is my co-host, Anna. Anna, say hi.
Hi, everybody.
Anna is going to do our polling for us. And we have 4 polls that we'll be doing during this 30-minute webinar. This is an executive briefing on executive career management. So we're going to move very, very fast. We are recording this webinar, and we will send out the recording afterwards. So if you have to leave a little early for some reason, we'll send you the recording. Also, anyone who's missing this live, we will have a recording for you as well. We're going to start by me sharing my screen, and I am going to go to a, let's see, my desktop. And on my desktop, I have a PowerPoint for you, and I'm going to start the slideshow and play it from the start. Okay, executive career management. Best practices for managing an executive career. This table of contents, there's 8 steps to the process. I'm not going to go over these here because we're going to go over these in depth during this next 28 minutes. As you have questions, please enter them in the chat. You can send them to everyone, send them to just to Anna if you want, or just me. But Anna, if you would please capture the questions and write them out. And what we're going to do is we're going to send an email to everyone with the answers to your questions. So we may not get to answer them all today because, again, this is a 30-minute down and dirty executive briefing. It's going to move very fast, hard-hitting, lots and lots of content. I think there's 60 slides or something. So just know that you will get your questions answered. Please send them as they come up. And then also please note the slide number, because the slide number you can reference and say, tell me more about slide number 7 and what did you mean by A, B, C, and G, E, F, okay? So 8 key objectives to being an effective career manager for yourself. 1, you got to get oriented in the right direction, and you need to develop a game plan. You need the proper mindset to engaging in career management. You know, if you don't manage your career, someone's going to manage it for you. So you have to be your own career manager. Now, sure, you can access executive career coaches like myself and others on my team to help you with managing your career. But ultimately, who's responsible? That would be you. And so I want to level set your expectations that you need to be in charge. So there's working in your job and there's working in your career. And so a lot of executives are so driven and intense and focused, which is great. It helps you produce awesome results. But you get so heads down buried, my observation is you get overly focused on your job, you ignore your career, and then something happens. You have a liquidity event, the company gets sold, or some other type of separation event, and you're looking around saying, gee, I don't know what I'm going to do next. So having time to think about what are you doing with your career is very important. And this time, this next 25 minutes, this is exactly your time. You need online tools and expert systems. You need strategies. There's a lot that you need to have in place, and we're going to give you that toolkit today. Okay, so orientation. You need to access a proven methodology. You know, you wouldn't check yourself into the hospital and schedule an operating room and say, I'm going to be operating on myself. No, you would have the doctor operate on you. So you should have a career coach help you with your career. God made career coaches for that very reason. So there's great resources today that you can access for helping you manage your career. If you're doing it yourself, you may not get the results that you really could get if you had expert help. Want you to be able to leverage multiple methods. We have in our methodology 7 hats that a coach wears, and I have these hats with me. So I'm going to put on some hats. The asking hat. See that hat? And collaborative coach. It's very, very important that you have a coach that'll collaborate with you. Let's see. I have another one here. Resource connector. Someone that will connect you with resources and help you to get better network. This is the newest hat that I've discovered. The cheerleading hat. You know, somebody that is an inspirational supporter for you. Here's another hat. The trusted advisor hat. Someone who you really trust that will advise you in the right direction. Another hat, reflective listener. So you can hear yourself think, hear yourself talk. One of my favorites, the Socratic hat. And down here, there's a quote. Socratic method is cooperative, argumentative dialogue between individuals based on asking and answering questions to stimulate critical thinking and to draw out ideas and underlying presuppositions. So, not bad. And then mentoring, our 7th hat, mentoring. So, who's mentoring you in your career? You should have a career manager. And I think we have a poll, Anna, is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
What's the poll?
Have you had an executive coach before?
Yes. So there's a poll. Please answer the poll, yes or no. And I know a number of you on this call. So I think the preponderance of the evidence will show that most of you have had executive coaches before. Okay. So objective number 2, assessment. You need to gain an accurate assessment to develop the best possible roadmap for a most successful career. So how do you do that? Well, you need to assess your past career and your life history. It's hard to do it on your own. So again, having someone to help you and guide you through that process is very beneficial. You need to assess your present situation. Where are you presently? And to be able to think at 30,000 feet, looking down on yourself and say, okay, here's where I am at right now. And where do I want to go strategically? And how do I get there in the steps that are most likely to bring success? You have to assess your future career possibilities and have a realistic assessment of what they really are, not what you'd like them to be. Assess your people reading abilities. That's part of what we do when we assess you, because you have to be able to read your interviewer and read the negotiator across the table from you as you're negotiating offers. You need to be able to conduct a sweet spot analysis, and I will show you that in a second. Here's sweet spot analysis. What is sweet spot? I think your sweet spot in your career is hitting the center of 4 indices. Number 1, the natural direction of your career, where you're naturally going. You know, a CFO comes to me, and they've been a CFO 3 different times, and she says, you know, what do you think I should do? Well, I think you should go be a CFO. You know, if you want the best possible ending in your career, you need to end well. Your last job should be your best job. You know, the Peter Principle is alive and well. What does that mean? The Peter Principle says this: people are promoted to their highest level of incompetence. So unbridled goals and enthusiasm for promotion and just this upward mobility without reality setting in can really lead to the Peter Principle. And so you end up at the highest level of your incompetency. You're at the last job in your career and you get fired, you quit, you burn out, whatever, because you're out of your sweet spot. Bad idea. So stay in your sweet spot. Some executives scale all the way to effective CEOs. Most do not. Natural direction. Number 2, your greatest soft skills. So what are your greatest soft skills? You should have a good analysis And I do a lot of intakes. I ask this question all the time: what are your top strengths? And someone can go on and on and on and on, and they can give me 15 top strengths. Then I say, great, what are your top weaknesses? And they say, I'm not sure. I say, wow, you need to do some work, because an executive cannot afford to have blind spots. So every executive has significant weaknesses. I've never met the perfect executive, but I have met executives who have a perfect ability to articulate their weaknesses and to that don't have blind spots. So perfect insight into your blind spots, you can attain that. And then you can hire around you to offset your weaknesses. So sweet spot: natural direction, greatest soft skills, proven abilities. You have a proven ability perhaps to work in a publicly traded company, Fortune 500. Some other executive may have a proven ability to work in a startup. Oftentimes those startup execs cannot function in the highly matrix, complex, global Fortune 500, and vice versa. So know your sweet spot. What are your proven abilities? But the fourth and most important indice is greatest passion. And the older you get, the more important it is to follow your greatest passions, because that's where you're going to do your best work. So if you hit your sweet spot of these four indices, you will do your very best work, and your last job will be your best job. Okay, and we have that poll done. It's, what is it, Anna?
Well, it's a 50% yes and 50% no that
So
people have worked with a coach.
half of you have a coach or have had a coach before, and half of you haven't. So I encourage the half that haven't to get one. Okay, assess your career management skills and abilities. This is part of assessment too. You need to take stock of your competencies. So just like there are executive competencies, and I do three kinds of coaching basically: career coaching, helping you get a job; onboarding coaching, helping you start a job; and leadership coaching, helping you grow in the job. So executive leadership coaching now is what we're talking about. And you have competencies that you've been studying and working on: delegation, time management, performance management, command and control, calculated risk taking. All of those competencies are very critical for the in-place executive. But for an executive that wants to manage their career, there's a whole other set of competencies that most of the time you guys don't think about. And here they are. How good are you of taking stock in yourself? Can you do that assessment we just walked through on your own? 2, are you able to accurately assess yourself, your career, the market, the career transition abilities that you have, and set highly effective written strategic career goals? Next, tools. Can you produce a high quality bio, a high quality resume, a great LinkedIn profile, great collateral material, follow-up letters, that kind of thing? They have to be flawless, absolutely flawless. Networks. Oh, how good is your network? Do you possess a very strong network? Do you know how to grow and leverage your network? And do you know how to leverage the network of others? Interviews. Are you expert at interviewing? And here's an interesting fact, that most executives who are very good at interviewing others are not good at being interviewed. So those that are really good at interviewing others, generally speaking, and I don't know why this is, are not good when they're being interviewed for a role. So just because you're good at interviewing doesn't mean that you're good at being interviewed. Negotiations. Are you skilled at negotiating, or do you leave money on the table? Gaining concessions, counteroffers, signing bonuses, etc. But here's the most important one: starting a new role. Objective number 8. Now let me say this. About 15 years ago, I was 17 years into my executive coaching career. So I've been doing this for 32 years now. So 15 years ago, I noticed something. My clients were disengaging after they got a job, and they were re-engaging 6 months later, but in a bruised, battered condition. And that 6 months in between the time they got a job and the time they started coaching with me again is really a critical space. And I call it the critical 100. Your first 100 days in a new role is the most critical, and it's counterintuitive. So most executives don't do that very well. It's not business as usual. In other words, you're not just doing what you normally would do in a job. The first 90 days is unique. It's different, and it has to be treated differently. And there are best practices. So I really started specializing in onboarding coaching. Onboarding meaning successfully getting you into a new role safely. And those things that you'll do in your first 100 days in a new role, you'll never do again. But there's many of them, and there are best practices, and you should know them. So you should have somebody help you there. Goals. You need to create a highly detailed, written, executable strategic career plan. We have a poll, I believe, Anna. Is that right?
Yes. The poll is, do you have a written career plan?
Yes. So let's do that poll. Thank you, Anna. Okay, so do you have a written career plan? I think it's important to develop long-range career goals first. And we'll look at that, and I'll give you what I believe is best practices of writing out your career goals. But first, let's look at this person and their career progression. So this person, bottom left, job focus. I just got to work in my job, heads down, buried. But they come to maybe a webinar like this, and they get religion, and they say, you know what? I need to start planning for when I'm not working a full-time job anymore. And boards are very interesting to me. So I'm going to start getting on some boards while I'm working a full-time role. And this person is working a full-time role. They're on some boards, and then the company gets sold. And voila, they're now in between roles, in between jobs. And so they go full bore into portfolio life. This portfolio life is what I call semi-retirement, where you have a diversified portfolio of activities. Just like you diversify your investment portfolio, you have stocks, bonds, cash, CDs, real estate, you diversify your career portfolio. So as you're getting older and getting closer to that place of semi-retirement, you should be diversifying. This person diversifies, they try a bunch of different things while they're looking for a new role. They get a new role, and you notice that now they have expanded their nonprofit and for-profit board involvement because they really liked it. Well, maybe somebody else doesn't like it, so they're not on boards, but they have a new job, and now they're doing some writing or speaking or teaching, right, part-time. And then eventually, upward and to the right, you stop working a full-time job. Your last job was your best job, and it launches you into portfolio life, this semi-retirement space where you have a diversified portfolio of activities. Now, on the goals, here is the results. Anna?
29% said yes, and 71% no.
So 71% of you on this webinar do not have a written career plan. Okay, so I should be nice and say, oh, no, shame on you, do it. Okay, next, develop short-range goals. Remember I said first, develop long-range goals, then develop the short-range goals. Let's just go back here for a second. I think you should start with the end in mind. So start with what you're going to do in portfolio life. Try to experiment now, figure that out, dabble, and then design the job that is going to be your last full-time job. When is it? How long will it last? What are you going to be doing that will ideally launch you into portfolio life? Then reverse engineer, go backwards, however many moves. Most of you on this call may only have 2 or 3 moves left before you're into portfolio life. Some of you that I know on this call, you only have 1 move. So better get busy. Okay, then you develop short-range goals. You need to overcome barriers to goal attainment, and having somebody work through this with you and look at what is stopping you from attaining your career goals. I don't want anyone that I work with to have a fantasy of what they're going to do maybe someday and then get into semi-retirement, get into this portfolio life with regrets. Say, man, I wish I would have worked harder at becoming a CEO or becoming a COO or becoming a chief revenue officer. So don't leave those regrets on the table. Get busy and get yourself help to really accelerate your career. Tools. You need tools to do that. What are tools? Resume, bio, other tools, elevator speeches, telephone scripts, email scripts, follow-up letters, networking tools, interviewing tools, all kinds of tools. Here's networks, objective 5. Now, Anna, do we have another poll? What's our...
So we had a poll for tools. Do you have an updated executive bio?
Yes, would you do that one, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, I blew right past you, Anna. Okay, networks, leveraging your network, leveraging recruiters. And, I wrote an ebook, and this will be in the package that you get. And it's called Recruiters, the Inside Story. Me and Bob Snelling co-authored it. Bob is the inventor of the word recruiter. 55 years ago, he inherited Snelling and Snelling personnel from his father. It was doing $1 million in revenue. Bob Jr. grew it from 1 to 900 million, took it public, and then gifted it to his family. Great story. Bob is, to this day, he's like mid-80s, doing resumes and career coaching in Dallas, Texas. So he's a good friend, neat guy. And what he says, let me tell you what he says. The worst thing you can do is get a job offer. Why? Well, it's a binary decision. It's a go, no go. I have a guy right now that I'm coaching. He is a first-time CEO. He got a job offer while I was coaching him at his last company. He hadn't done all of this work. All he did was get the job offer. Unfortunately, because of that, he didn't have choices. And he hadn't done the analysis to say, what is the very best job that I could possibly get? So he didn't have that profile. He didn't have his next and his next line down. He didn't have that strategic career plan. So he took the job. And right now he is miserable. And he's telling me, Daniel, I will never do this again. And I'm going to give him this webinar to watch, and he's going to cry. But anyway, the net is that you should be able to really plan your career. And you have to be able to leverage recruiters. To leverage recruiters is an art and a science. And in this ebook, you'll learn all about how to do it. It's in the package we're going to give you. I'll tell you about that in a minute. So we're 22 minutes into this webinar. How are we doing? Shall I take a breath? Okay, networks. Leverage social media and develop channels. You have to be good at social media these days, and you have to find a way of branding yourself. Gain education, advanced networking best practices. There's a science and an art to networking. You need to learn it. And develop a strategic networking plan. Something that you can sustain even when you're doing a full-time job. Objective 6, interviews. You have to outperform other candidates. This is a competitive situation, and it's an artificial environment, and the best interviewer often gets the job, not the best candidate. I just interviewed a guy. He is actually on this call, and he's a terrible interviewer. He overtalked the interview. I flew him down from Dallas for an interview. Now he knows who he is, who I'm talking about. And I spent 5 hours interviewing him. And it took me 5 hours to get through his chronology, his resume. He should have been able to hand me a resume and say, 10 minutes, walk me through his entire career. Couldn't do it. So key is to be able to have advanced interview techniques. You need to uncover the anatomy of an effective executive interview. And there really is a scientific way of going about it. And learn advanced interview prep methodology. I'll give you a little tidbit here about that. I have 2 things that I have all my coaching clients do. One is they write out the questions they think they're going to be asked. And then they write out the answers. At your level, you think you can just wing it in an interview because you're just brilliant. Well, guess what? You're not going to be nearly as succinct if you write out the answers, write out the questions you think you're going to be asked, and write out the corresponding answers. And secondarily, write out questions that you're going to ask. Now, I've had maybe 600, 700 career coaching clients over the last 32 years. I'll tell you this. The first set of questions that I'm given when I say, well, give me the questions you're going to ask for this interview coming up. I have never seen a list of questions that I would say, yep, those are the questions you should ask. So it's counterintuitive, the kind of questions you should be asking in the interview. And this is not about you. This is about them. This is consultative selling 101. This is needs-oriented selling. This is, what can I do to meet your needs? What's keeping you up at night? What are you struggling with right now that you need me to solve? What do you want me to do in my first 90 days in the role, et cetera, et cetera? So it's needs-oriented. It's not, what's in this for me, which is the natural. By the way, we do have a poll result. Anna?
Yes, we do. So 57% have an updated executive bio and 43 don't.
Yep. So about half of you need to get bios. Very, very powerful. Why a bio rather than a resume? Well, a bio is safe to send out, number one, because you're not sending out your resume. So if you're networking, you can send out a bio in advance of a networking meeting. And it doesn't look like you're looking for a job, especially if you do it the way we suggest doing it, and it looks more like a speaker's bio. So you're looking for speaking opportunities. Two, you should do speaking engagements, and having a bio prepared would be a great idea. And three, it's a 1-2 punch. So if somebody asks for your resume, send them the bio first. They read about you, and you control the narrative, number 4, for the bio, where you don't control the narrative when somebody reads your resume. So having a bio, you control the narrative of exactly what you want the reader to come away with as key points. So very important to have a bio. And then you need to learn advanced interview prep methodology. We talked about that. You need to be able to create interview aids and pass psychological and behavioral tests. I can't resist. I know we don't have really any time left, but I did sit down with a client recently, and he took a psychological profile, and I was right there next to him, helping him to figure it all out. Okay, objective 7, negotiations. Very quickly, learn advanced negotiation techniques, prepare and deliver counter offers, learn how to conduct due diligence, learn closing techniques, and negotiate employment agreements. Starting a new role, learning best practices. We talked about that. Designing an onboarding plan. We talked about that. And what we didn't talk about is the client portal. We are going to give everyone who would like a time with me 3 complimentary half-hour coaching sessions. And what's included in that is about $5,000 worth of intellectual property and everything that you're seeing here. The client portal is replete with, each step has many, many best practices, many expert systems, many tools, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that is included free. Why? Because I would like to be a coach to some of you. And if you're interested in coaching, what I want to do is I want to be able to try it out first and to see if we have good chemistry. You should want that too. In fact, any good coach should be able to offer you some complimentary sessions just to test the chemistry. So 3 complimentary sessions you can schedule with me. There's some references here for you. You can schedule with me. I have a link right there, solidleaders.com /schedule. And there's a little bio. And remember, I do 3 types of coaching. So I do career coaching, onboarding coaching, and leadership coaching. And I'd be more than happy to do any or all of them for you. So in our 3 sessions, we can do just onboarding coaching if you're just starting a new job, if you're in like your first 6 months, or leadership coaching if you just want to grow your executive skills, or career coaching if you would like to do some career planning. Okay, Anna, we have one more poll.
Yes, we do. We have, for starting a new role, have you used a coach on onboarding into a new role before?
Okay, you can send that out. Please fill that out. I really am passionate about onboarding. Why? Because I see a huge number of executives fail during their first year. Here's the numbers. 20% get fired or quit in their first year in a new executive role. 20%. And we believe that number is increasing. So 20% fired or quit in their first year in a new executive role. Let's take that to zero through effective onboarding. Okay, 80%, 86% have not. Very good. Anna, you did a great job. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Send me your questions. We'll send out this recording, and we will send out the answers to your questions. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.